Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the special City Council meeting. Most of it's related to personnel, but we do have a COVID-19 update, so it's a special council meeting of all councilors. We'll call this meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020. The time is 4:30 p.m. We have 4 items on the special meeting agenda, and following this special meeting, we will convene the City Council meeting at 5:30 as scheduled. So item number 1 on the agenda is the COVID-19 update, and I would look for Britt and our chief to provide us an update of the COVID-19 as scheduled in our emergency declaration, and a request from the council to have these weekly updates. So who wants to start? Chief Lewis, would you come forward? Pam, in the audience is Chief Lewis. He'll be making a presentation today. All the councilors are present. Did you prefer to take the roll call?
Sorry, Pam, we can't hear you. There you are. Okay, try that again.
Pam, would you? Yeah.
Present.
Friedlieb,
Present.
Beyondich. Johnson,
Here.
Paulsen,
Present.
Present.
They call me? She didn't call. She did?
can you hear?
Barnzelli?
Present.
Okay, thank you. Chief, would you please give us an update on the COVID-19? And I'm sure there's some information that we need to share with the rest of the council and the public as the week has unfolded. Chief, good evening. Thank you.
Good evening, Council, and thank you for this opportunity. So I want to begin by just giving a brief overview of where the COVID-19 situation sits with the state of Minnesota, and then talk about some specifics with what phase we're in, and I see Brian is here as well to talk about the youth sports side. So again, we've seen a slight uptick in cases, nothing too dramatic. There's currently 332 people hospitalized in the state of Minnesota due to COVID-19. That's only an increase of 33 from the prior day. Within our county, we have 143 cases. There was one individual that was tested and has since been released, coming back negative. So there is no cases within the city of Virginia that I'm aware of at this point. So that's kind of the 30,000-foot overview. Again, statewide, ventilators are only being used at about 10% of what's there. Bed capacity is much less than much less utilization than we have capacity for, and we are now in phase 3 of the reopening, which began on June the 10th. So again, briefly, that's just gatherings of 25 or less that are allowed for the indoors, and 10 or less indoors for the social settings is what they're recommending. 25 or less outdoors. The critical businesses continue to go forward, and as they have, retail businesses are open at 50% capacity with that COVID-19 plan, and your restaurants and bars again they want the 6 feet of difference, 6 feet of distance, and then the 50% capacity, not to exceed the 250 individuals. Again, recommendations on some things like masks for people that are doing the serving.
Excuse me, I'm having a very hard time hearing Alan.
I'm sorry, I'll speak into the microphone.
That's good right there.
All right. So again, some of the biggest changes I think happened with outdoor recreation activities. I spoke with Brian at length about the plan for the city of Virginia for the youth sports going forward. We have appropriate mitigation in process. We've defined community as the Iron Range. They really want you to keep within your community of playing sports, and you may want to talk about that a little bit more. So that's the overview of the COVID-19. As far as Virginia, the county, and the state goes, are there any specific questions that I can answer?
Yes, just one question, Chief, if I may. So just to confirm, we had a suspected case of COVID-19 in Virginia, and after the quarantine, the testing had resulted in a negative impact. So we have no cases to date in Virginia, correct?
No cases that I'm aware of.
That we are aware of, yes, thank you. Okay, anybody else? Councillor Bearable? Okay, anybody have any other questions, comments regarding this update? Chief, do you have any other recommendations moving forward? It is my understanding that either on June the 29th or July the 1st, the governor is going to make another announcement. It might be in conjunction with calling another special session to get some of the work, well, get any of the work done that didn't get done in the last legislative session. So part of that would be some adjustments to the to his emergency declaration of how he opens up businesses. We don't know, at least I don't know, and I haven't heard anything. And I welcome the councilors. Have you heard any official information about, you know, what his intent is? Chief, do you have any information about that based on your position as the emergency management director?
I have no direct knowledge or indication of what that announcement will be or what direction that will take. I suspect as time gets closer, I usually get some information about 24 hours in advance, and I'll share that at that time with the administrator and the mayor.
Thank you, Chief. Rick, did you have any other information with respect to the internal COVID-19 mandates or that are in place right now? We continue to move along as we have in the past, and are there any changes that you've seen or any concerns that you have with respect to how we're moving forward?
No, but in the packet, Pam did prepare the election, or the voting information, so maybe we'd like Pam to highlight that.
Okay, thank you. And in your packet under number 1, there is some information from our city clerk, Pam Labine, regarding absentee voting and COVID-19, and you can see it in your packet. And Pam, would you be able to give us an overview of what's on this packet? Any expanded on any more information other than what's here?
Sure, Mayor. Right now we have, we'll be setting up in the lobby for voting for anybody that does come into City Hall. I will be posting signs on the doors to let them know with the different phone numbers of mine, Wendy at the finance or the main office, the window, if they would like to come into the building and vote, if they're here, if they'd like to make arrangements ahead of time. I have an ad going out in the paper with all that information regarding absentee voting and things like that. We will have the hand sanitizers available. I've purchased some pens. We will be sanitizing those after every use and wiping down the voting booths as well. I guess we will have our masks on and gloves while assisting voters that do come into City Hall. We've processed quite a few absentee applications already. I'd say possibly a couple hundred for sure. So we're preparing those for when we get the ballots to mail out to all those that are voting absentee. I've been in contact with the other facilities up by precinct 3, the Columbia, the Richelieu, and they will have absentee ballot applications for people that want to vote by absentee. And I will be contacting the healthcare, well, I have contacted the healthcare facilities regarding voting at their essential, or Edgewood and those various places. And they will be getting the applications and assisting those people to complete those for voting, and then returning those to me, and they will all be mailed their ballots as we do like the absentees.
Okay,
Other than that, I think we just get updates daily from the county on different things, or the Secretary of State's office on how we have to process our absentees. Now we have a couple new, they don't need to have a witness if you are already a registered voter. So we have flyers going out with all the information and the ballots. So.
okay, so so this information you provided in our packet is the same information you'll be distributing through social media and through other methods in order to inform the public of what you need to do when they come in to vote.
Yep, we can put this on our website and Facebook and wherever else and post it. And then as well as the ad that we have in the paper regarding the process for absentee voting and contacting the office.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Councillor Johnson?
Thank you, Mary. Pam, this is just for the primary, is that correct?
Well, it is right now until we know
And
what's going on after.
what
So
is
this
the
would
date
just
of the
be for
primary? What is the date of the primary?
August 11th.
And do we know what is going to be on the ballot? There's no primary for City of Virginia, but do we know what other offices there will be primary races for?
I haven't got the ballots. I do not know right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Baraboo?
Yeah, that was basically a question I was going to answer. The school district is going to have this big election, but they don't have to have a primary, so that'll be just November. So you won't have a primary for the combined consolidated school district, because they've done away with primaries for school districts. But they're going to have a lot of candidates in November, so, and it's a paring down type election for that one.
Okay.
So we have no idea when we're going to get some of these ballots, is what Pam is telling us, correct, Pam?
We're waiting for the ballot to come out, so
Okay.
the sample.
Yeah, I don't know what offices will be on there as of yet.
Okay, thank you. Pam, just to let you know, if you were to add to your minutes that Brian Silber, our Park and Rec Director, is also present at the council, or at this meeting. Also, our City Attorney, Brian Lindsay, as well. Councillor Paulsen.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief Lewis, for the update. I appreciate that. And thank you, Pam, for all the hard work going forward. I do, again, want to emphasize that I regularly go on the St. Louis County website and check out the actual numbers. And they have not updated since June 12th. And I don't know if we can rely, are you coordinating with the county at all regarding that information? Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Would you come to the podium? Would you come to the podium, Chief, and answer Councillor Paulsen's question? Thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Paulsen, if you could ask again.
Okay, so the St. Louis County website, when they were doing their updates for COVID cases and deaths in all of St. Louis County, the last update was on June 12th, and they had been doing them weekly. And I would like to, I don't know if you are in any coordination with anyone at the county level with those reporting those numbers, but I'd like to see those numbers being consistently reported weekly.
I'll pass that along tomorrow. We have an emergency managers meeting, and I'm in direct contact, just not the website administrator, for updating those counts, but I will pass that along. St. Louis County website to be updated more regularly than once a week.
Thank you. And then I guess I would like, thank you for that, Chief. I would also like maybe if we could hear from Brian regarding sports update, so our community would know maybe what is coming up in the world of sports.
Hey, thank you, Councillor Paulsen. Brian?
Well, looks like we are finally getting back to a little bit of normalcy when it comes to youth sports. With the governor's announcement last week, games are able to resume. So effective tomorrow, games will be beginning. Now, the state had recommended doing a phased-in process for that depending on the virus load in your area. After meeting with our emergency team, we've determined that since we do not have a large presence, that we can go ahead and skip the first stage of just doing inter-squad scrimmages and begin to play other games within our community. And our community has been defined as the Iron Range. Now, what we are asking all of our teams to do is if they're playing or have a game scheduled on Friday with a team from City A, and we start hearing reports that City A is having a lot of cases that's resulted in some hospitalizations, we're just simply asking that we not play that game. We forfeit that game, not to put anybody in harm's way in any way, shape, or form. In addition, depending on which ball diamond you are using will depend on the social distancing for the dugouts. As you know, we have stock field, which is our larger field that has a larger dugout. Then we have our youth fields that are smaller with smaller dugouts. So for the smaller fields, we're recommending no more than 3 people be in the dugout at a time. Everybody else be spaced out along either the first or the third base fence line. Still promoting that social distancing. Again, we're recommending but not mandating that masks be used. We are also not recommending that any of the bleachers be used. We're recommending that parents bring their own folding chairs or their own lawn chairs, and they can set up appropriately social distanced outside of the ball diamond. The other big change that is affecting us is for our ice rink. And as you guys are well aware, we're one of the few ice rinks that is actually operating this summer. As of July 1st, players will be able to begin inter-squad scrimmages again, and then shortly after that, games. We're not hosting any games, we're not hosting any tournaments, but this does allow the teams that are renting the ice from us to begin doing a lot more of that scrimmaging. Right now, they're allowed to start doing minimal contact, which is an odd hockey term, having minimal contact in hockey. Basically, what that allows them to do is do some of the 3-on-3 drills and maybe do a face-off drill or two. But we're still not recommending that they go all out and do all the checking and do 5-on-5 drills.
Thank you, Brian. Does that answer your question, Councillor Paulsen? Very good, thank you. Councillor Baraboo.
I was remiss, Mayor. I had one other question for Pam. Pam, when we received the ballots from the county for these voters for the, whatchamacallit, the primaries and stuff, will you put notices in the paper so people, if they want to come to City Hall, will know when they start? And are we going to have somebody at the doors letting people in and out?
I'm sorry, I cannot hear you. Something about the ballots?
Yeah, when you get the absentee ballot forms, and we know when they're going to start, once you get them, are you going to put notice in the papers of the dates of starting? And also you're going to have somebody at the door to let people in that are going to come to City Hall to vote?
And part of that is on our addendum there, which says that Signage will be posted on the main doors at City Hall with phone numbers to contact staff for assistance to vote. And Pam had indicated there'll be a number of phone numbers available, so someone will be able to call again to get in and for somebody to come and let them in.
Well, my problem is, Mayor, that some people don't have cell phones and they might want to come in. There's a lot of older people that don't have cell phones.
Yeah, so your question would be that.
Is there going to be somebody at the door when we know when we're going to start the actual voting once we get ballots? That's
Pam?
my question.
Did you catch that question from Councilor Bearable? Are we going to,
Well-
are staffing the door?
That's why we're requesting that they call ahead from home if they're elderly and they want to come into City Hall to vote, to call ahead. The numbers will all be in the paper, or they can request an absentee ballot.
There's another issue there. There are many people, and the percentage of people get papers and stuff are not that great in Virginia, Minnesota, so that's why I'm saying you're going to have walk-ups that don't call ahead of time. Are you going to have somebody at the doors to let them in? That's going to be a
I
problem.
guess
There's going to be a
that's up
problem. I
to the
have,
council if they would like someone standing at the door.
well, Pam, the problem is we have to be conducive to our voters.
We have our door open in the finance office, so I'm thinking that we can see, or Wendy from her desk can see if someone does come to the front door there.
Charlie, Councilor Bearable, I think this is where the discussion was kind of going at the last meeting, that is this the time that we need to open our building?
Yeah, that's
Absent-
exactly right. That's what
Absentee
I'm
voting
saying.
starts on the June 26th technically, and it's open till August 10th. And do we need to open the building? Because to have a staff person sit at the door for a month and a half is kind of a long time. So that's a discussion for the council.
And that's where I was going, that we need to open up City Hall in a way to make it conducive to our voters, because we have a lot of older people. I can tell you in my neighborhood, I only know of in my block, 3 or 4 homes that get papers. The rest of them don't subscribe anymore.
Okay, so,
We're also putting this in the shopper so that the absentee ballot application will be in the shopper. So if people want to fill it out and send it back, they can do it that way too, so they have access to, you know what I mean? I don't foresee a lot of older people wanting to come out to vote.
well, I think, Pam, what we're trying to do here is, and you've done the yeoman's work about this in dealing with the Clerks Association with the state of Minnesota with respect to voting. The concern that we all have, of course, is to make sure that we have every individual who wants to vote has the opportunity to do so and doesn't have any significant restrictions that would cause that to happen. Whatever action we need to take in order to accomplish that, I think we're trying to do the best we can with respect to that matter. So if we have to make some adjustments and look toward opening City Hall, that's a decision that the council will make. Motion will likely go, and there'll be some discussion about that. So we could look at that. We could make that part of the discussion right now, or we could wait another day or two or whatever. But we could certainly do that. The concern that I have is if you open up the City Hall for voting, you open up for everything, not just voting. You can't. If somebody comes in and says, I want a permit, or you're not here to vote, well, no, and then you got to leave. So if you open the City Hall, you open the City Hall. So, Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. This question would be for Britt and the emergency manager. What are the barriers to opening City Hall to the public at this time?
We would have to follow COVID restrictions. The staff would have to take precautions that are necessary, like Pam had alluded to, the pens, making sure we're sanitizing common surfaces, doorknobs, and such. We already are doing that here in the building. And Chief, if there's anything else I'm missing, but I think we would encourage all of our staff, they're all behind locked doors, keep the doors locked. Don't prop them open like we have been used to since the main doors have been closed. That would,
So, and everybody who comes to City Hall reports to the information window anyway. They can't get to Pam or they can't get to any of the other staff without first reporting. The only other person who they could get to usually is you because your door is open, or the mayor because his door is open. But as a precaution, those doors would be closed.
could close them, yes.
And then they would go to the information window, and then the appropriate staff, whether it be planning and zoning or the legal department, would get a phone call from the information window saying, somebody's here to see you, and then
And
we
would
could bring the
encourage-
stuff downstairs to them, to
We would
that common
encourage
area.
staff to mask up, come
Yep.
downstairs and meet them. Don't bring them back to your office. You do it in the lobby if you can, and meet them in that area, wherever it's the more common area that we can sanitize one area, not everybody's office repeatedly over and over again.
And that, right now, there is already the space downstairs where if somebody needed a higher table, that table does adjust up and down. It's an ADA accommodated. So I just don't think I see at this point, if the staff, the administrative staff and the emergency procedure or the emergency director are comfortable with City Hall opening up for business, I don't have a problem with that since a lot of the security is already in place. And at some point, we're going to have to open up anyway. And I think doing it this way because of the voting is logical to me. So I'll make a motion that we direct staff to come up with a plan. What is the date today anyway? Anybody?
Today is the 23rd.
Thanks, Mayor. I guess I would make a motion to direct staff to come up with a plan and open up City Hall on the 25th. That gives a couple days to get stuff together, if that's an appropriate amount of time. I'm getting nods from both Britt and from Chief Lewis so that we can start that process for City Hall.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Councillor Johnson to direct staff to put a plan in place to reopen City Hall effective June the 25th. Is there support?
I will support that. Makes more sense than what I was talking about, so I will support that motion.
Supported by Councillor Baraboo. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Barnzelli.
Thank you, Mayor. When I'm standing out here on 4th Avenue, waiting for somebody to let me in, elderly people have come up, and that's a tough hike for them. What if we go over to the library? I guess maybe I'm out of order here, but I would, if we could have a shift at the elevator, arm the lady in, get them in the elevator, bring them up. Is it on the first floor or second floor? First floor, the main floor here. And I think an elevator would be easier than having them climb up two sets of steps.
Well, by opening up, by Councillor Johnson's motion and a second by Councillor Baraboo, this provides them that opportunity. The entire City Hall gets open, including the use of the elevator.
I think the elevators, I would like to see the old people, elderly couples use the elevator.
If the vote passes based on the motion in the second, that would occur.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor Paulsen.
Thank you, Mayor. So just a clarification, would that plan then include our meetings being open to the public coming in? Is that part of it if we do open up? So that would be included in a plan coming forward?
Well, if the plan is to open on the 25th, if we open City Hall, to try to break some of the restrictions by the 25th in order to inform the public through a directive, it put in the paper would take a little time to which to do that. Councillor Johnson,
Go ahead.
Councillor Johnson?
I would think that we could put tape on the benches to encourage or, sit here stickers. That we're already doing that, but for the general public to come in, this room is very large, and I think for the amount of people that would come to a meeting, if we open the doors to the committee room and there's plenty of ways for folks to be, but I think, we all have the option to wear a mask in this room as well during the council meeting, so I'm comfortable with City Hall being open within the parameters of COVID-19 safety precautions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Beyondich, you have any questions or comments regarding the motion on the floor by Councillor Johnson and support by Councillor Bearable to reopen City Hall effective the 25th of June.
At this, I don't think I have anything to say. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, there's a motion on the floor to reopen City Hall. The motion is to direct city staff to come up with a plan to open City Hall effective June the 25th, and with any precautionary measure that need to be taken, but to open it up. So it's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Pam, roll call, please.
Baraboo,
Aye.
Friedlieb,
Aye.
Paulsen,
Aye.
Beyondich,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Baranzelli,
Aye.
Cuffey.
No. Motion passes 6-1. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is request for leave of absence for a firefighter EMT. And we would ask first, Britt, could you please give us some information about this leave request and so the public's informed and the rest of the council? Thank you.
We received a leave request from Will Olson, who is a dual-role firefighter EMT. He is going away to medical school, actually starting in July as his last day of employment. He is requesting a 6-month leave of absence just in case something happens with the school and he's not able to attend, such as a COVID-19 closure. And additionally, in case he does not like school, he would like to come back within the 6 months.
And so from a historical perspective, I'm aware of only one of a request and it was by a firefighter paramedic years ago. Wanted to go to nursing school and then come back as a firefighter paramedic and be a nurse as well. And that particular time it was denied by the council. So that's the only one that I'm aware of. Do you have any other information, Britt?
I did research that. We have had 4 in the last 20 years. One we denied. They were, again, leaving employment and going to a different city. We denied that request. The one after that, we did approve. They were going to school to become a paramedic. They asked for a 6-month leave of absence to finish their school. We did grant that one. We had another one who rescinded his request because it didn't seem like the council was in favor. He, again, was leaving employment and going to a different department. And then the 4th one was recently for a medical leave.
Okay, thank you.
We granted a 6-month.
Okay, thank you. I think what I'd like to do, I don't see anybody's light on right now. I'd like to bring the chief up. And Chief, could you give us an analysis of if this was approved, we would have to hold this position open for 6 months and cannot really replace that individual. So how would that impact your staffing levels moving forward?
So thank you. So Will Olson is going to medical school. He's just concerned about the start date being pushed back due to COVID-19. If the start date is pushed back by, say, 2 or 3 months, he would rather continue to work and serve the city. That would be in our best interest to have that as well. Otherwise, he has to put in his notice, at least 2 weeks. What I'm thinking within the next 2 weeks, he will get finalization of whether his school is going to start on time or whether it's going to be delayed. And that will alleviate all of this. If it starts on time, he will go to school. This will be a moot point. He'll put in his 2 weeks. It'll be gone. If for some reason it's delayed, it would be in both the city's interest and in his interest to continue with a qualified member while we are still in the hiring process for 2 current applicants and establishing a list for his and at least 1 other vacancy that will be coming down. 6 months is a long window on this. It will not be exercised unless his school is canceled completely, and then we won't be out. We'll have an extra 6 months to plan for his replacement to step out. So we could still continue the process with other candidates, just not make them a formal offer until that opening is guaranteed.
Okay, thank you. And then one more question I have. So in the event that this is denied, or there's a motion, or action is taken, say for the sake of argument, so when that employee decides they want to come back, and there is an opening, if the leave of absence is not approved, that individual could reapply, obviously, to come back, or we could maybe set some personnel things in place. But I'm asking for your recommendation with respect to this. I can tell you from a personal perspective, I've dealt with leave of absence. I actually took one to take another job and was granted that 6-month leave of absence. But with the intent is that I would have to reapply in the event that I used the entire 6 months, which I didn't do, which was evidenced by your example. And so the hiring process was still being considered. And then so when I came back early, I was able to return to work based upon my previous work as a peace officer down in the Metro. So, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 questions. Do we know what the union stance on this leave of absence is officially?
Yes, union supports.
Okay, and then my other question is do we set a precedence for anybody in the city who wants to take a 6-month leave of absence because they want to go to Mesabi and we don't know what Mesabi is doing in August, or want to go to UMD? I understand the reasoning, and if this decision needs to be made in 2 weeks, then I think the letter should have come to us in 2 weeks. I don't like making a decision based on, we've been hearing about 2 potential absences, but this is the first official notice we've got about, again, it's not for sure either. It might be or it might not be, so I'm guessing, Sherry, that this is kind of a HR challenge moving forward.
Yes and no. In the past, we have granted 6-month leaves for medical reasons. This is totally up to the council. It's in the personnel policy. You guys can give a 6-month leave absence. It's in your personnel policy.
Correct.
And I guess I have a third question then. When the leave of absence starts, what does that do to benefits and seniority and all of those things?
They're usually suspended.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Paulsen.
Thank you. Is the 6 months something that's just like a standard ask in terms of a leave? Could it be shortened to, say, 3 months? If he's going to find out within a couple weeks, and then I would think like the part of the letter states that if he maybe didn't care for medical school, is that maybe why the full 6 months? And maybe if we could shorten that to 3, that might make me feel a little more comfortable.
So I have no indication to believe that he has any reservations about not liking medical school. This is something he's worked for pretty much his entire adult life. So he would cancel his leave request the moment he has a start date confirmed by the school. This is all due to COVID-19, possibly pushing the date. Again, if it's denied, he won't put in his official separation request up until the very last minute, and then he will be taking vacation time and any other accumulated leave to run out, that 2 weeks that is the minimum time that is customarily requested. So by doing the leave of absence, he gives himself the ability to continue working for the city until he knows, and then at which time he's accepted to medical school, cancel that leave. So once he is in medical school, he's not coming back, and he would have to reapply.
So, Councillor Baraboo?
Is that in the agreement with the union and stuff, that if he gets accepted in middle school, everything gets canceled? Because I'm okay if that happens, but I'm not okay for 6 months because you've been already touting shortages in your department coming up here. And if we got capable candidates on a list that can fill, I don't want to be extending that out because I don't want to short your department of people.
I would agree, and you have the discretion to shorten it to 3 months if you would feel more comfortable with that as well, too.
Well, I would shorten it to the time, let him continue working until he gets accepted in medical school and leave it simply as that. And then as time starts where he leaves, signs the paperwork and has all his benefits taken care of.
So he has been accepted to medical school. It's the start date that is in question because they have not confirmed for sure that he will start on the date that he was given. He has a formal acceptance. He has a start date.
That's fine. You can just leave it as that for the start date and keep him working until then. Once the start date is, he's gone.
It's confirmed.
Confirmed and legally, he doesn't have a chance of coming back unless he reapplies. That's kind of a legal agreement I would put together on this. Because it's gonna start Steve is correct, Councillor Johnson, that it may set a precedent all over the city in the future, and I don't want to see that happen, because we've got other departments that can be short of individuals. It takes time to get them on board, in your department especially.
Yep, very much.
Mayor, may I recap what I'm hearing? I'm hearing that we are comfortable that, we understand that due to COVID-19, his start date for college will probably be pushed back. That's a nationwide issue that we're hearing from, even from our local public schools. We don't know what's going to happen in the fall. So we are saying that we would be interested in giving Will a leave of absence, maybe to the start date of the school year for his college that he's going to in Kentucky, where he gets to, he'll know soon what's going to happen. Hopefully, these colleges have to pick out a date when they're going to start doing their enrollments and such, but.
Every reason to believe it will be confirmed within the next week or two. It's going to have to be.
Or would the council be more inclined to wait a couple weeks, bring this to the next committee of the whole and review it again when we know a little more information?
That's true, too. You can always table it and hold.
So I have one question before we ask for some action here. How long has this employee been working as a firefighter paramedic?
Well, he started as a single role EMT just over a year and a half ago, I believe. So
Thank you. Councillor Beyondich, any questions or comments regarding this request for a leave of absence for a firefighter paramedic? I'm sorry, firefighter / EMT?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I'm looking for any action the council might want to take with respect to this. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move that we table this until we have more information by the first committee of the whole meeting of July.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Johnson to table. Is there support? Is there support?
I'll support Mayor.
Support by Councilor Bearable. I wanted to make a comment, but I can't. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Opposed? Motion carries. This item has been tabled. Item number 3, the hiring of a part-time parking monitor. The one we have now has transferred to another part of the city, and now there's an opening. Britt?
Yep, we're looking for permission to go, we have posted internally, we're looking for permission to go externally for the posting of this position.
I would move to post externally for the part-time parking monitor.
Okay, moved by Councilor Johnson to approve the posting of the hiring for a part-time parking monitor. Is there support? Support by Councilor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion?
Did you say we were going both internally and externally?
It has been posted internally with no applicants.
No applicants, okay, that's fine.
This will be for the external posting. Thank you. Any further discussion?
Excuse me.
Yes, Councilor
Yes.
Beyondich.
Can I ask where is our current parking monitor now?
He has posted into a position in Park and Rec.
Okay, and does he have, how long do they have where they can come back if they don't like it and take their job back?
30 days,
30 days?
30 days.
So if you go ahead with, if we approve this and he decides to come back, what happens?
By the time we have applications back, his 30 days will have expired.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Moved and supported. Further discussion, Councillor Paulsen.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I would like to maybe challenge the necessity of a parking monitor during this time. The county the employees are mostly all working remotely. We do not know if and when or how school is going to go back in the fall. Chestnut Street is pretty quiet. And I guess before we go ahead and jump into this, I think I'd like to see more of some of the financials. You know, how much does the part-time parking monitor make? Oops, excuse me. I do this all the time. And then what their benefits are if they do qualify for benefits as a part-time employee. And then the amount of tickets that they write or that they're generating revenue. Because as of what I talked to Chief Metzen a while ago, and it was stated also that our police officers can, in fact, give these same tickets. So I think I'd like to, maybe before we go and jump this gun, I think I'd like to explore, do we really need it at this time?
Yeah, this is an administrative ticket, which is done internally. It's not a state law. It's an internal civil citation that we issue, and we control those citations. They don't go back to the state. All the revenue is generated. Everything is within ours. So Sherry, I'm going to ask you to please, if you could answer Councillor Paulsen's question regarding what's the hourly rate, is there benefits involved, and we would know how many tickets were written, and you probably don't have access immediately to the revenue that's been generated as a result of this. But could you give us all some information about that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Can you hear me, Pam? The benefits are prorated. So if he's 50%, it's 50%. He or she would pay on the premiums. As far as the wage, I'm sorry, offhand, I don't remember exactly. And I did the posting. And then the tickets, yes, I'll have to get the revenue for you on that. So I will email you folks after the council meeting with that data.
So, Mayor, I guess at this time, I don't think I can support going forward with this position until I have that information in front of me.
Okay. You want to take some action with respect to that, Councillor Johnson?
I guess I would like to see us start the process so that we can at least have that. And then if we choose not to hire someone after the process has begun, I think that's fair, because there would be two outs. It would be either he comes back to his position or we determine we don't need to hire for the position. I think either one of those is a valid point to stop this. Doesn't guarantee, it doesn't even mean we're going to get qualified candidates to do the parking monitor. So I guess that's why I would like to continue forward with it.
Well, I think that we've had a lot of inquiries about that position, so it will be a competitive job if we approve it now or at some future time. The concern that I have is that the impetus for the parking monitor, civil parking monitor, was back in the day when the former chief, Dennis Benz, was available because of the casework that was required and the workload for the police department. In order to adequately respond, in order to respond in a timely manner to a parking complaint, it was delayed because the police officer went on another call for service or doing something else. Or during the course of their issuance of citation at calendar parking at night, they get distracted, so some people get tickets and some people didn't. There was a lot of concerns and comments about that. So that's where we went to a civil issue. It's no longer a criminal, it's penalty, it's within our jurisdiction. We can control that environment. So the question that Councilor Paulsen raised, and something that I would raise, is that in the event that, say for the sake of argument, we do not approve a parking monitor, or we decide we're not going to do that, where we delay it, or we don't issue this request, or we don't authorize the staff to go out to advertise to hire a parking monitor, then it falls on the police department to issue citations. And yes, they can issue those citations, but any complaints with respect to that would be delayed. So having all that information about the salary, the benefits, the breakdown of revenue stream as a result, and so is that we don't hire a parking monitor to generate revenue. You hire a parking monitor to enforce the ordinances of the city of Virginia to make it a safe environment for particularly emergency vehicles to be able to pass it, to respond into a street that we don't want cars parked on both sides of the street where they don't have access. So that was kind of the issue for that. So a little bit of background information. Councillor Johnson.
I guess I would ask then Chief Lewis to check with his staff to see if the use of the parking monitor, part-time one we've had for quite a while, has in fact impacted the help, done what it's supposed to do. I wouldn't ask you to do that now, but if you could check in with your staff and see if it's easier to get an ambulance down a side street now due to that.
Right. Thank you. So, pardon? Yeah, I'm looking for the motion. I'm looking for a motion. We're looking for more information. So, Councillor Bearable, we're looking for some council action here.
Before we get to the motion and the action on this, summer months aren't a big issue. It's wintertime when we need these monitors because we have every other day parking. And they block up the streets if they don't get moved or get ticketed, so snowplows can't get through because there are narrow streets and stuff. I don't have a problem right now holding off for a little while during the summer months because it's not an issue, but when it comes to the snowflies, we gotta have a parking monitor because they don't do just downtown Virginia. People don't realize that. They go out into the community to ticket in the streets when there's cars on both sides in the wintertime, and then we can tow them away so the plows can get through. That's the idea, to help in the winter months more than the summer. So,
Okay, thank you.
I'm of the opinion that we need a monitor down the road at least. Summer, it's not as much a problem.
So what I'm hearing from the council is we're looking for a motion to table for some additional information with respect to this and to wait to give approval to advertising for this position. Do I have a motion from the council?
I'll move that.
Councillor Paulsen moves to table the request by staff to hire a part-time parking monitor at this time. Is there support?
I'll support.
Support by Councillor Beyondich. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Roll call, please, Pam.
Second. Bearable,
No.
Friedli,
Aye.
Beyondich,
Aye.
Johnson,
No.
Ellie,
Yes, no.
and your final answer?
Yeah, his final answer
No.
is no, right?
No.
No.
Okay, Paulsen,
Yes.
Cuffey.
Aye. So what's the tally?
4 passes, 3 noes.
Okay, passes 4-3. Thank you. Okay, last item on the special council agenda is the adoption of a resolution to hire 4 summer labor positions.
And actually would like to amend that to 5 summer laborers. Typically, we
that's what I
hire
thought, yeah.
these positions in May, and we have budgeted for 4 positions from May until the end of August. Well, it's obviously not the beginning of May, and so we've already missed half of the summer with them. Also, in addition, with us running summer ice at the miners an additional month through July, we could really use the additional person that would fill in at the park so that we can keep everything moving through in our parks. So we'd like to present to you this evening to approve the hiring of Antonio Pizzelli, Jay Broomer, Galvin Flame, Madison Lutzka, and Avery Dolsnick. Several of these have worked with us in the past, and we would like to welcome them back. 2 of them would be new employees with us as our summer student laborers.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, Councillor Paulsen moves to approve the request for 5 summer student labor positions.
All support.
Support by Councillor Freely. Is there any further discussion?
Here, I got a question.
Councillor Barnzelli.
Brian, they were here last year,
3 of them have worked with us in the past.
and who do they start off from, the golf course or from Ridgewood?
We will assign 2 of them into the Blight crew and 3 of them to the park crew. None of them work at the golf course.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barnzelli. Councillor Beyondich, any questions with respect to the motion to approve the 5?
No, thank you.
Okay, very good. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brian. Okay, that concludes the special council meeting on the agenda items. There are no item 5 for other items of concern, so we will stand adjourned and reconvene for the regular council meeting at 5:30. So we have 5 minutes to take a little break. So thank you, everybody. We stand adjourned.